Hello, I'm Pauline Zaldonis. I'm the Open Data Coordinator at the Connecticut Office of Policy and Management, and today I'm going to show you a quick demo of the Connecticut Open Data Portal. So I'll show you around the homepage, and then we will learn how to search for data on the portal. So the Connecticut Open Data Portal, or data.ct.gov, is a state website that gives people access to data that is published by government agencies. So when we're talking about open data, we mean data that anyone can use, access, and share. So right now we are looking at the homepage for the Connecticut Open Data Portal, and I just want to point out a few things here on the homepage. So first, you can see at the top of the page, there's a search bar where you can search for data that you're interested in, and we'll test that out in a minute. Below that, you'll see that we highlight a few data stories that we have on the Open Data Portal. And data stories are pages where we highlight different data sets that are published on the portal. So these pages usually have some text that explains the context around the data, and they will also typically have some charts or maps that illustrate trends in the data. All right, so I will keep scrolling down. And next, you can see the different categories of data that are published on the portal. So lots of different state agencies publish data on the portal about their programs and services. And you can see here we have data on government, business, education, the environment, and more. So you can click on any of these tiles to browse data on each of those categories, or you can click the Browse All Data tile to see all the data that is published on the portal. All right, and at the bottom of the page, we highlight some other open data resources in Connecticut, including the Connecticut Geodata Portal, which has maps and spatial data published by state agencies. We link to Open Connecticut, which has data on the state budget, payroll, and pensions. EdSite has data from the State Department of Education. And then we have a couple other resources that you might be interested in exploring at the bottom. Okay, so that was a very quick tour of the homepage. So now let's search for some data. So I'm going back up to the top of the page, back to our scroll bar. And so I'm recording this in February, and that means it's flu season here in Connecticut. So let's say I want to find data on the flu in Connecticut. So I'm just going to search for flu and hit enter. All right, so this brings us to the search results in the data catalog. So we can see here our search for data on the flu has brought up a couple of data sets. It looks like there are several data sets on reportable diseases. I'll just scroll down and see the other results. There's some data on immunizations. So there's lots here that we could explore. I'm going to go ahead and click the first result, which is the Connecticut Reportable Disease Case List. All right, so this brings us to the landing page for the reportable disease data set. So here we can get more information about what this data set is all about. So at the top, we can see there's a description of the data. We learned that the Connecticut Department of Public Health publishes this data. It says every row in this data set represents a case of a disease reported in a Connecticut resident. And it says here that the diseases that are included in this data set include Mpox, influenza, COVID-19, and RSV. And we're looking for data on the flu, so this looks great, looks like what we want. I'll just keep scrolling through this landing page. Further down, we can see that the page links to some nice looking dashboards, so that's good to know. We might want to check that out. And then further down on the page is some more metadata or information about the data that we might want to check out. So we can see here the data is updated on a weekly basis. We can see it contains data from 2022 through the present. Over here, we can see when the data set was created and when it was last updated. So this is all great information to have to help us sort of understand the context of this data. I'm going to keep scrolling. And further down, we can see there's a list of all the columns in the data set and a short description of what each column represents. So again, this is really helpful. It gives us a good understanding of what this data is going to look like and what is included in this data set. So I think we have a pretty good idea of what this data is all about. We know it has data on reportable diseases like the flu and like COVID. We know it's updated on a weekly basis, and every row represents a case. So now I think we're ready to take a look at the data itself, and we can do that in a couple of ways. So first, you'll notice there's a little tab on the top left that says data. So if you click that, it'll bring us to a quick table view of the data. And here, we can get a quick idea of what the data looks like. But if you want to be able to explore the data a little bit more and interact with it, you can click this Actions button at the top right. And then the first item in the drop-down menu says Query Data. So we're going to click that. All right, so on this screen, we can again see the data in sort of a spreadsheet view, and we can also interact with the data. So in this panel here on the bottom, we can filter the data, we can group and aggregate the data. So this is really a helpful tool if you want to explore the data a little bit more. So say we want to know how many cases of the flu there have been so far this season. So we can do this in a couple ways, but for this demo, we'll just do a quick filter. So I'm going to filter on the disease column, and we will select influenza. And we can also filter on, you can see up here, there's a column that says temporality value that seems to have the date range. So I'm going to select temporality value, and I'm going to select the 2023-2024 period. So again, we're filtering for cases of influenza in the 2023-2024 flu season period. And if you scroll down, you'll see there's a button that says Apply. I'm going to click Apply. Great. So now we can see that the data set filtered for all cases of the flu during the 2023-2024 season. And we can see here that there are 15,264 rows, which we know means 15,264 cases, since we know each row represents a case. So from here, you can export the data using the export button at the top right of the screen. So I'll go ahead and click that. And one thing to note, if I export the data set now with the filters applied, it will export the filtered version of the data set. If we wanted to export the full data set, you could just clear the filters and then click export. So in this case, we are filtering we're exporting the filtered version of the data set. And here you can access the API endpoint if you want. In this case, we're just going to download the file. Usually I select CSV for Excel as my export format. And then I will go ahead and click download. And it downloaded for me. So there you go. I hope now you have a better idea of how to search for data and interact with it on the Connecticut Open Data Portal. Thanks so much for watching.